Welcome to CTV News Trendline with Michael Stittle and Nick Nanos.
You've got your monthly seat projection, and I'd love to kind of go east-west and start on the East Coast this time. Why don't we start there?
Sure. And you know what? The picture really says it all. You'll see on one side, on the left-hand side, you'll see the vote projections or the seat projections, color-coded. On the right-hand side, the last federal election. And the other thing to note that if it's something is a particular color, a party color like blue or red, that's conservative or liberal or New Democrat, orange. If it's black, that means it's a 2% margin. If it's gray, it's a 7% margin. Those are too close to call. So check out Atlantic Canada. Wow, last time, pretty red, right across the board in the Maritimes. You can see basically noticeable pickups for the Conservatives. Actually, one thing that I'd like to point out that's quite striking is Shediac. That's that riding on the coast in New Brunswick. That's the riding of Dominic LeBlanc, very longtime politician. His father was also the member of parliament there. We're now putting Shediac in the too close to call. We have Dominic LeBlanc ahead, but he's leading by less than 7 percentage points in the Nanos modeling. And can I tell you something? If there's such a thing as a canary in the coal mine, it's Dominic LeBlanc, because he has a solid track record. And you know what? If he has to kind of look over his shoulder and focus on making sure that he fights in Shediac, that's not good news for the Liberals in the region. And you can see the setback on that front.
I think it's safe to say that's one of the major strongholds, I suppose, in the country.
Oh, absolutely. And he's a senior cabinet minister. He's a very trusted advisor to the Prime Minister, and his counsel is sought after. So be interesting to see what happens. Now, we still project that he would win the riding, but it's just not as close as it has been in the past. Michael, is probably the best way to describe it.
What about in Quebec?
When we look at the island of Montreal, still pretty red. So, and Quebec is the best region for the Liberals, but you can see the little spot of orange for the New Democrats, and you can see beside that a riding that's too close to call. It's a toss-up in the Nanos seat projections. That could be a second pickup for the NDP. Also off island, Longueuil, you can see the bloc. In a bit of a closer fight than usual on that front. But not a lot of change in the island of Montreal. Maybe we'll see the Liberals pick up, or the NDP pick up a seat from the Liberals, and the Bloc having to fend off a little bit of an attack.
Now, we've seen some pretty strong Conservative numbers in the GTA in Ontario. How is it looking now?
Wow, it is just so striking. Let's look at Ottawa first. And, last election, basically solid red when we're talking about the city, and then solid blue when you get out of the city. But right now, in our seat projections, Ottawa Centre, which is it's a Liberal riding, right now it's a toss-up between the Liberals and the New Democrats. And then what we see are the Tories challenging a little more in the burbs and Nepean and in that particular area where they're challenging the Liberals. So there are a couple of ridings that could flip in Ottawa, and that are a little closer than the Liberals have seen in the past.
I apologize to Ottawa for almost skipping it. Now, what about further west to my hometown in the GTA?
Toronto? Yes. Holy moly guacamole. Check out this. Like, if a map kind of tells you a story, you can see that Toronto, not just in the last election, but usually is a bit of a lock, especially the city for the Liberals. And when the Liberals have been able to do well, they've been very competitive and have been able to pick up seats in the suburban areas, the Mississaugas, the Bramptons, right? Those types of ridings. But check it out now. You can see, even in the city of Toronto, which is basically, why don't we just call it ground zero for the Liberal Party of Canada, that they're going to be fighting in a number of ridings. In the city of Toronto, they'll be fighting directly with the New Democrats, who will probably want to try to pick up some seats. And when you get outside of Toronto, you can see that some of those other ridings in the Mississaugas and Bramptons, it's going to be the Conservatives that are going to be some of the key challengers. And Toronto, not to diminish the whole country, but Toronto will make or break the Liberals. If they see a setback in Toronto, that's when kind of like the emergency is, if there's such a thing as an emergency button for the Liberals, that's when it's going to be pressed, because you know, the Liberals are still doing well in Montreal, but it looks like they're going to be in a tough fight in the next election in Toronto, in the city of Toronto, and also outside in the Greater Toronto region.
So, and a lot of that, Nick, is we're seeing strong gains by the NDP in a lot of ridings downtown.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like NDP on the one, so they've got basically a two-front war. They've got the NDP on the one hand challenging them in the city of Toronto ridings, and then the Conservatives in the Greater Toronto area surging right now.
Let's go west into the prairies. What are we seeing there?
Well, I don't have a board for the prairies, Michael, because it's so blue.
It's
sorry, not to offend any of the listeners, but oh, yeah, okay, it's all blue except for a couple spots, and those couple spots are now, you know, so not a lot in the prairies. BC is a completely different story. So, you know, when we look at the province as a whole, you can see the Conservatives benefiting right now in the seat projections, with the NDP losing seats once we get out of the lower mainland. But let's zoom into Vancouver. Wow. Can we call it a dog's breakfast? I don't know if we want to call it a dog's breakfast, because I don't have a dog and I don't know what a dog's breakfast looks like. But, you know, you could see the last election, the Liberals doing really well in Vancouver, and also the New Democrats being a key force in Vancouver. But, you know, check out the numbers now. You can see Vancouver being another big battleground between the Liberals, the New Democrats, and the Conservatives. Right now, with the Conservatives picking up seats, but still a lot of close races in Vancouver. How's that for excitement, you know, when it comes to where things are panning out? But the bottom line is, if an election were held today, and an election is not being held today, but if it were held today, we're talking still about a Conservative majority government.